So, we'll then continue with our series through the Gospel of John. As you know, what is John's main point and the purpose of writing his book? He states it towards the end of his book. Believe that Jesus is God, and then you will have eternal life. The whole opening chapter was giving reason after reason after reason why Jesus is God. And we looked at that in the first sermon of this series. Then we looked at Jesus cleansing the temple. It was the Passover. It was meant to be a celebration of God's power, of God's faithfulness. And what did people do? They just try to turn it into an event to make money. Their hearts were not in it, their hearts were exposed, and they also distracted others from coming into worship to God. And that's why Jesus got so angry. That's why he used physical violence, not against people, but against the whole money-changing tables and everything, to make his point. This is a house of prayer. You're here to worship me, Jesus saying, and not to make money. You cannot mix these two things together. Then we talked about the woman at the well. Story tells us how Jesus deals with our dark parts, things that we are ashamed of, things that we don't want anybody to know, things that we are running away from, all these things. And we learned Jesus doesn't primarily talk to us about our sin. He doesn't come to us with the intention of saying, hey, this is what you've done wrong, this is what you've done wrong, this is bad in your life. This is not his main message. His main message is restoration. His main message is, I'm here to heal you. I'm here to restore you. I've died for you. I'm here to change your life. That's his main message. And as part of that, of course, we will also have to talk with Jesus about our sin and about our failures. But he's not the kind of person who just comes to us accusing us. His main message is, I've come to restore you. I've come to heal you. We learn transformation doesn't happen by trying to be better, trying harder, trying to achieve something. What we've learned is transformation of our lives happens in one place, in Jesus' presence. When we are with him, when we hear him speak to us, when we speak to him, that's when our lives get transformed. Now today's focus is when we are not good enough for God's blessings. We'll see how we all have a constant struggle in our lives. On the one hand, we are constantly tempted trying to earn something from God. And on the other hand, we want to just receive the gifts Jesus wants to freely give us. And we'll talk about how God sees us in such situations, how he acts in such situations, and how he wants us to find rest in his promises when we struggle with these two things that we are tempted to believe. And we'll see at the end of the story, this story actually has a similar focus, a similar conclusion to the one that we looked at last week, the woman at the well. With that being said, let's get into the text. John 5, verses 1 to 9. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of invalid folks, of blind, lame, paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain time into the pool and troubled the water. Whosoever then first, after the troubling of the water, stepped in was made whole of whatsoever disease he had. And a certain man was there who had an infirmity 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been now a long time in that condition, he said unto him, Will you be made whole? The invalid man answered him, Sir, I have no man, when the water is troubled, to put me into the pool. But while I am coming, another steps down before me. Jesus said unto him, Rise, take up your bed, and walk. And immediately the man was made whole, and took up his bed and walked. And that same day was the Sabbath. So let's focus on this man. He was lying there for 38 years. Well, we don't know whether he was lying there all these 38 years, but definitely he had his condition for 38 years, and for a long time he had been there. He knew about this pool, he knew about the healing that he could get there, and he knew when it's the right time, I just have to be quick enough to get in, and then I'll be healed. Basically, what has he been trying to do for all these 38 years? He has tried to earn his healing. All these years he thought, I have to be good enough. I have to be quick enough. I have to be better than all the others. If I'm the first, I get my healing. If I'm second, I get nothing. So we don't know how often he tried, but obviously this was not his first attempt. He was probably lying there many months, many years, day and night, and then the water was stirred, the angel came, he was doing his best, someone else was a little bit faster. And he was like, missed it, next time. So he came again. We don't know how often this water was stirred, if it happened once a day or once a year, we don't know all that, but definitely it happened many times, and every single time someone else was faster. His problem was, because he was disabled, he wasn't good enough to reach his healing. No matter how hard he tried, no matter how much he performed, no matter how much he prepared himself, watching the water, waiting for the right time, probably sitting down next to the pool for a long time and watching and waiting to finally be the first, he just wasn't good enough. He just couldn't get it done. Someone else was always just a little bit faster and stole that blessing from him. What do you think happens if that happens to our minds, to his mind, when that happens over and over and over again over months and years? I'm pretty sure this guy thought something like, others are just better than me. I'm just not good enough to be healed. I'm just too far down the social ladder. There are other people who are better than me. There are other people who are not as bad as I am, and that's why they get the healing and I don't. I just don't have what it takes to be healed by God. I just don't have the abilities to receive a blessing from him. Other people are better. They can earn their healing because they are good enough, but I just can't. He really had the chicken and the egg problem. He was disabled. That very disability had prevented him from receiving the healing he wanted. Without the disability, he would probably have had the chance to be first in the water. But if he doesn't have a disability, then he doesn't need healing. So somehow he's totally stuck in this whole process. He wants the healing, but he can't perform enough to receive the healing. And this mindset has so become part of him that he didn't see any other solution any longer. Think about it. Jesus asked him, do you want to get well? Do you want to be healed? Do you want to get unstuck? Do you want to get over this disability? And logically thinking, what would be the right answer? We should be like, of course, please, yeah, tell me how. But that was not his answer. What was his answer? He said, someone else is always faster. I'm not good enough. I can't be healed. I just don't have it. I'm not good enough to receive the healing from God. It had become so ingrained, it had become so part of his way of thinking that he did not see any other solution. All he could think of, angel, water, disability, others are better, no way out. I'm not good enough. From our perspective, let's think about this. Who was he talking to? He was talking to God himself. It's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? Here is God who says to this man, do you want to get well? And his response is, God, I'm not good enough. I can't perform enough so that you can heal me. I'm not blaming this guy or anything. It's just from the outside, that sounds pretty ridiculous, how he thinks. That's what 38 years of trying harder did to him. Every time he tried to get to the water in time, someone else was faster. It happened a second time. It happened a 10th time. It happened 100 times. And every time this happened, that little voice came to him saying, "You're not good enough. You can't do it. You won't achieve your healing. You simply won't be able to perform your way into God blessing you." Eventually, all that got to him, and it became so part of him that he could not think in any other way any longer. And then what happened? 38 years of situation telling him, "You're not good enough, you can't do it, you're too disabled, others are better than you." What happens in one moment? Jesus just comes, and Jesus just heals him. Jesus didn't ask him, "Do you want me to heal you?" He didn't tell him what he was going to do. He didn't come and lecture him and say like, "Hey, I know you put your trust in that water and the angel and everything, but actually I can heal you another way." He didn't say anything. He just said like, "You're healed. Take up your bed, walk." Now that must have messed up this guy's worldview completely. 38 years, again and again and again, he heard the voice telling him, "You're not good enough. You will never get the healing because others are better than you." And then suddenly in a moment, he just got it in a different way, totally out of the blue, totally unexpected. He didn't have to do anything for it. He didn't have to ask for it. He didn't have to perform for it. He just got it. How must that have messed him up? I really wonder, what did he think that night in bed? It's like, man, I could walk. I got healed. I tried so long by myself. I tried so long in my own strength. And then this Jesus guy just comes and just heals me? Wait a minute. Why didn't I just ask God 38 years ago? Why did I try to achieve my own healing with this water all this time? If God can just heal me without me having to do anything, why didn't I just ask him in the first place? Why didn't I ask him from the beginning? Why did I try so hard my own way and I got more and more frustrated every single time it didn't work? I wasted 38 years trying to achieve something that I could have just asked God for. Why didn't I do it? He definitely realized that day how much better Jesus' way is. He definitely realized then every time he could walk, when he could just maybe walk past that pool again, see all those disabled people there, and thinking like, that's dumb. Why do you put your trust in that water, in the angel, in your own efforts? Why don't you just ask God for what you need? He'll give it to you. One short encounter with God totally changed 38 years of life experience. 38 years of trying harder and failing were completely replaced by one encounter with Jesus and Jesus telling him, "Get up." And his whole life and his whole worldview completely changed. This is basically what Jesus did when he came. This whole story is the gospel in a nutshell. What did people in the Old Testament do? They tried to earn their way into God's kingdom. They believed if I'm good enough, then God will accept me. And if I'm not good enough, then God will reject me. Now we know that's not true. People in the Old Testament were saved through faith, just like people in the New Testament, just like you and me today. But that's how they interpreted the law. That's what they thought about God. That's how they lived. They all thought, I have to be good enough for God, which is basically salvation by works. God blesses me if I'm good enough for him, but if God doesn't bless me, then that means that I'm not good enough for him. There was a direct connection between works and blessings. And Jesus came to oppose this lie. Jesus died on the cross so that we could freely come to him, freely be saved, freely enter a relationship with the Father. No more works, no more performance, no more having to achieve anything. Simply coming to him the way we are, coming to him by faith. This story about this disabled man is really the gospel in a nutshell. We don't have to earn anything. Jesus just comes to us and heals us without having to perform ourselves. But there is a catch. There is something that often happens. Satan is right there and tries to oppose us. Let's not forget what happens next, verses 10 to 16. The Jews therefore said unto him that was cured, It is the Sabbath day. It is not lawful for you to carry your bed. He answered them, He that made me whole, the same said unto me, Take up your bed and walk. Then asked they him, What man is that said unto you, Take up your bed and walk? And he that was healed knew not who it was, for Jesus had taken himself away, multitude being in that place. Afterward Jesus found him in the temple and said unto him, Behold, you are made whole. Sin no more, lest the worst thing come unto you. The man departed and told the Jews that it was Jesus who had made him whole, and therefore did the Jews persecute Jesus and sought to slay him, because he had done these things on the Sabbath day. So what just happened? A guy who tried to perform his way to receive God's blessing for 38 years, who always believed, I'm not good enough to be healed by God, he experienced the truth. God freely just gave him the healing that he was asking for. No questions asked, no performance needed. The guy probably thinking, now I know how I should have lived differently the last 38 years. And what's the very first thing that happens to him after he receives the healing, after his whole life gets messed up? What is he being told? Perform. You need to obey the law. It's the Sabbath. Don't carry your bed. Jesus healed you on the Sabbath? That's a bad guy. Can't be. On the Sabbath you don't do any works. All these things. What basically did these people do? They tried to undo immediately what happened in his heart, in his mind. He just experienced the truth. He just experienced that you don't have to earn anything from God. You can just freely receive it. And the people around him immediately turned it around and said, that's not true. That can't happen. That can't be God. Why? Because you're doing something that is unlawful right now. You're doing something that is not from God. You have to perform. You have to obey the law. You have to keep the Sabbath. You cannot do what you're just doing, so stop it immediately. Immediately, what they try to do is bring back his old mindset again. He was immediately tempted to completely dismiss what just happened. 38 years he has been waiting to be healed. It never happened. Jesus just came and just healed him. And what did the people around him tell him? This is not God. This is not a good thing. Go back to your old ways and go back performing. Go back trying to be a better person. We have to be aware of that. This temptation is always going to be there. When you experience a breakthrough, when I experience a breakthrough, when we experience God's miracles in our lives, and we didn't do anything, we didn't earn anything, God just did it, Satan will be right there and will try to whisper to us, go back to works. Try to earn it next time again. This isn't normal. This is not how God works. This was an exception. You need to earn it next time. We will always hear that voice. When God's power in us is the greatest, we will hear Satan's voice the strongest. Satan will tell us again and again and again, you have to perform, you have to earn it. Jesus' message to this man and to all of us today through this message is this: you don't have to earn anything. I will give you everything you want, not everything you want, but I will give you everything you need. I will give you everything according to my will. I will bless you. I will just shower you with blessings. I'll be for you. And you don't need to work for it. I'll just bless you. You need healing? I'll give you healing. You need provisions? I'll provide for you. You have godly desires in you? I will fulfill them. You want a fulfilled life? Yes, I will give you life in all its fullness. Jesus will do everything. He already has done everything. We don't need to work for it any longer. But let's not forget, that doesn't mean that no works need to be done. But it does mean Jesus has already done all the works. We don't have to perform. We don't have to earn it. Why? Because Jesus already has done all the work. And because he has done all the work, we can now rest in his works, rest in his promises. And we can now say, I don't need to earn it. I don't need to achieve anything. Jesus has already done everything needed. Now all I have to do is ask him for it and be in a relationship with him. When we believe that we have to do the work, we are basically limiting Jesus and his power. We're basically saying, well, I have to do the work because Jesus didn't do his work. Or I have to do work because the cross isn't enough. Jesus isn't powerful enough. Jesus won't do it again. Maybe he did it for people in the Old Testament or New Testament. Maybe he did it 10 years ago in my life, but he's not going to do it again. Or maybe we say, well, Jesus does it for others, but he doesn't do it for me. It's all a way of saying Jesus is not going to do it again. He's not powerful enough, he's not loving enough, whatever. Whenever we're trying to work our way into a blessing, it's a form of unbelief. It's a form of not trusting either in God's power or in his character. Either I say he doesn't have the power, or I say it's not true what he says about himself, and that's why he's not going to do it for me next time. That's the unbelief that lies behind any time we are trying to earn a blessing from God. But the truth is, yes, works need to be done for us to be blessed. But Jesus already did all the work. Now we can rest in his work. We can rest in his promises. And we can say, you know, all the work is already done. I don't need to do anything any longer. He will do it for me. It's like, imagine that you come from a really rich family and you know there is a family bank account and you have access to it. And your father or relative or whoever earned the money is telling you, do with it whatever you want. You can just, if you need money, if you need a house to live, if you need food, just take the bank card and just withdraw the money and all is good. And then we can say, well, I trust you and I'm just going to use it because you offered me. Or I can say, no, I'm going to earn it for myself. I'm going to get a job and I'm going to do all these things because I don't trust you that there is no catch. Maybe in a year or so, you're going to come back to me and say like, hey, how much money did you withdraw? Now pay me back. These kind of thoughts that we might have in that kind of situation. Now, of course, it's not a good analogy to compare money with Jesus' blessing, but I think you get the point. Jesus has all the blessings already. He worked for it. It's ready for us. All we need to do is take it. And we can now choose to say, no, I'm going to work for it. I'm going to earn it. Or we can just receive it and be thankful and praise Him for it. That's your choice. That's my choice. So first we read the story. But then Jesus teaches spiritual truth that are based on what He just did. The story continues in John chapter 5, and it looks like two separate stories, but I think they are closely related. I don't think it's coincidence that they are right after each other. First, Jesus does what we just read, and then He teaches the spiritual truth behind His actions. John 5:19, then answered Jesus and said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, the Son can do nothing of himself, but what he sees the Father do. For whatsoever things he does, these also does the Son likewise. Jesus is saying, I can't do anything by myself. I by myself, if the Father were to leave me now, I have no power, no wisdom, no abilities. If God withholds His hand from me, I cannot live like this any longer as a human being. Everything I have is completely dependent on God the Father. He's giving me everything, He's showing me everything, He is guiding me in everything, and there's nothing I have by myself. Apart from the Father, I'm nothing. There's only one thing I can do. I can see what my Father is doing, and then I'm going to do the same thing. Jesus' life was completely dependent on the Father. It was completely surrendered to the Father. And Jesus fully knew that everything He has comes from the Father. It was not His own. And then He says in verse 20, For the Father loves the Son and shows Him all things that He Himself does, and He will show Him greater works than these, that you may marvel. It is the Father's will to show Jesus everything He does. It's not like the Father is up there, Jesus is down here, and Jesus is like, Father, what are you doing? I have no idea. Please. No. The Father willingly and lovingly shows the Son everything He is doing. There's an open heaven. There is a channel. There is a way for Jesus to see what the Father is doing. It's not a mystery. It's not this kind of like, well, I guess He's doing this, but I might be wrong, so I'll just give it a try. No. The Father clearly shows Jesus everything that He is doing. He's not withholding that information from Jesus. He's willingly showing it. And why does Jesus say that? Of course, He says that because He is our example. This is how He wants us to live as well. We should live with that same mindset. We should live with that mindset of saying, I can't do anything by myself. I have no wisdom. I have no power. I have no intelligence. I have nothing. I'm completely dependent on my Father. There is nothing I can do in my own strength. There's only one thing I can do. Listen to my Father. And when He says something to me, I'm going to be obedient and I'm going to do it. He's not far away. He's not distant. He's not unreachable. When I set my mind and my heart and my time to say, Father, I want to know what you are doing, He will tell us. He told it to Jesus. He will tell it to you. He will tell it to me. That's what Jesus modeled to us. That should be our lifestyle. That should be our focus. That should be how we live. But where is now the connection between these two stories? Well, what did the man at the pool basically think? He thought, I have to use my own strength, what I have earned, what I have in myself apart from God. I have to use that now in order for God to bless me. He relied on his own works. He relied on his own performance. He relied on, I have to be the first, I have to be the best, and then God will bless me. But Jesus, on the other hand, said, I can do nothing by myself. If it's not God's will for me, if it's not the Father's will for me, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can achieve. There's absolutely nothing I can ever perform. And obviously, that's a very different mindset. These two things are incompatible with each other. If the man had been right, thankfully he wasn't, but if he had been right, then that means we have some powers inside of us. We have some abilities inside of us that are not from God. And then, of course, theoretically, we could use that abilities that we have earned ourselves to impress God. And then once we impress him, then he blesses us. But that's not true. Jesus said, we have nothing that doesn't come from God himself. Since everything we have is from God anyways, why do we think that we can earn anything from God? Why do we think that if we try harder, then God will bless us? Why do we think that if we study harder, then God will give us wisdom? Why do we think that if we just perform better, are more holy, then suddenly God will bless us more or give us more money or whatever? Everything we have, all abilities, all wisdom, all understanding, all anything, strength, it's all from God anyways. And if it's all from God, why do we think that we can now perform to earn blessings from God? So Jesus' teaching here, towards the end of the chapter, is perfectly in line with what he just did earlier. He was basically saying to that man, I'm going to heal you because you have nothing within yourself to earn your healing anyways. So I'm just going to heal you. I'm not going to ask you, I'm not going to tell you, I'm just going to do it. And he's also saying by that, you can't earn anything from God. You just have to trust in God. You just have to receive the gifts from him. So that's the chapter. But what can we learn from this text? What can we learn from the story with the lame man? What can we learn from Jesus' teaching? How does it apply to us? The main lesson is Jesus already did all the work. He died on the cross to save us. He died on the cross to heal us. He died on the cross to give us fullness of life. He died on the cross so that we can once again live the life that God had intended for us when he created Adam and Eve. Whenever we think we have to earn anything from God, we are showing our unbelief. We don't believe that Jesus already did all the work. We don't trust that he will give us what we are asking him for. We question God's power, his goodness, his love, whatever it might be. Trying to earn something from God is a form of unbelief. Let's stop that. It's sin. And let's just trust in his promises. Next takeaway, Jesus wants to overcome our unbelief by simply giving us what we are already trying to earn. What happened in the story? Jesus told the guy, do you want to be healed? The guy complained by saying, I'm too slow, I'm not good enough. And what did Jesus do? Just healed him. Didn't carry him in the pool or anything like. He was just like, no, here it is. Here's your blessing. Here's your healing. What does Jesus do with us? He wants to get us out of that trying to earn something mindset by simply giving us what we are trying to earn. He's simply trying to bless us with the very thing we are trying to achieve, the very thing we are trying to be good enough for. But think again about the story. He didn't put him in the pool. What would have happened if Jesus had carried him to the pool? He would have still put his trust in the angel and in the water. But because Jesus just healed him on the spot, his mindset was completely different, and he realized, okay, it's not about performance. It's not about being the first in the pool. God can just do whatever he wants. And so sometimes we're trying to earn something, we're trying harder, we're trying again and again and again. It doesn't work, we get frustrated, we get tired, our faith in God suffers and all kinds of things. And in the end, God is just saying, enough. I'm just going to give you. But I'm going to give it to you in a way that you cannot make any connection between the blessing and your works. I'm just going to give it to you in a way that you will just have to step back and say, man, my way didn't work. In the end, God just did it because he loves me. It doesn't work if we try to change the way we're thinking, if we try to believe harder. We tell ourselves that we should believe more, all these things. Because that only leads to the kind of faith where we believe with our heads, but not with our hearts. That's why God says, no, I'm not going to heal you in the way that you are expecting the healing. I'm just going to do it in a total different way, that you will just be your mind will just be totally blown, and you'll be like, what just happened? As we think about it, meditate on it, and wonder what just happened, we can only come to one conclusion. God just blessed me, and he just gave it to me, and it has nothing to do with my performance. That's something that will last. That's something that will truly transform our lives. Because when we experience that happening in our lives, we will realize how God loves us and blesses us despite our failures. We don't have to do anything for it. Next takeaway, Satan will always tempt us to go back to trying to earn what Jesus already wants to give us. What was the first thing that happened to this man? People came back to him and said, you've got to perform. Satan knows exactly what would happen. If we all lived differently, if we all lived in a way that says, I'm not going to earn anything by myself any longer. I'm simply going to trust God. This world would be transformed. The church would just, be a very different church, a much more fruitful church. Satan knows that exactly. So what does he do? Whenever we receive a blessing, whenever God is with us, whenever God is for us, whenever we receive something from God that has clearly nothing to do with our performance, Satan screams at us the loudest. And he's trying to tell us, go back to works. Go back trying to earn your blessings. Let's be aware of that. The time of the greatest temptation, trying to earn something from God, is right after we receive the blessing from him. Because Satan wants to pull us back. We have to be aware of Satan's schemes, and we have to counter that lie that we will certainly encounter. Next, living by faith alone will create conflicts with other people. We just talked about Satan trying to pull us back. What is his greatest tool to do that? Other people. He will always try to use other people, telling us, go back to works. Go back trying to earn what you're looking for. Sometimes it's even other Christians. Sometimes it's in the world, in workplace or advertisement or whatever that he's trying to pull us back. But let's be honest, sometimes Satan is trying to use other Christians to tell us to earn our blessing. So let's be aware of that, and let's be aware that sometimes when we stop trying to perform and just trusting in God's promises, people turn against us. People tell us to go back to works. People will oppose us. Let's not be scared of that, but let's also be firm and stay with what is truly true. But last point, let's also make sure that we don't misunderstand what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying let's not do any work any longer. Work is a blessing from God. Work was in the world before the fall. Work is not a result of the curse. It's not a result of sin. Work is a good thing. We are supposed to work. So I'm not saying let's stop doing any kind of work and let's just ask God to bless us all the time. That's not where I'm going with this. But what I am saying is, let's not do any kind of work with the goal of working to achieve anything for ourselves. Let's not go into works by saying, I want to work so that I will be fulfilled. I want to work so that my needs are going to be fulfilled. I'm going to work so that God is going to give me a blessing. If we work with that kind of mindset, we're basically trying to achieve something for ourselves. We're trying to earn something with our work for ourselves. That's the kind of mindset that the guy at the pool had. Instead, let's say, I want to work, but I want to work for the glory of God. I want to live like Jesus, and I want to say, God, what are you doing today? If you're telling me to rest, I'm going to rest. If you're going to tell me to study, I'm going to study. If you're going to tell me to work for that project, I'm going to work for that project. If you're going to tell me to work for a friend or help a friend today, I'm going to help a friend today. I'm going to do what you want me to do. And then we work alongside Jesus. Then he will empower us. Then he will say, you're doing my will. I'm going to give you joy. I'm going to give you strength. I'm going to give you wisdom. I'm going to give you excitement. It's going to be so fulfilling. It's going to be so fun for you. Why? Because you're doing my will. You're doing what I created you to do, and that's the best thing you can do with your whole life. And then he will make our work fruitful. And then it will be fulfilling, and it will be exciting, and we will love what we are doing, and we will love studying, or we will love going to work, or whatever. And it will not wear us out. It will not exhaust us. It will not feel like, well, I'll just do it because I have to do it. But when we walk with God and do the work that he wants us to do at the time when he wants us to do it, we will experience the excitement and the passion that work is meant to be in the first place. So please don't misunderstand me today. I'm not saying let's not do any works. But what I'm saying is, let's stop trying to earn a blessing from God with our works. Instead, let's do the works that God calls us to do. And let's not make any connection between that and the blessing. Because he's going to bless us anyways, if we simply ask him. So, here's the conclusion for today. I want to ask everyone, including myself, let's speak to God and ask him, where in my life am I in my 38 years of trying to earn my blessing from God? The guy at the pool tried to earn his blessing for 38 years, and it didn't work. Where are you currently trying to earn your blessing, and it just doesn't work? Where am I trying to earn my blessing, and I'm just getting more and more tired, more and more frustrated, getting more and more bitter towards God? I'm getting more and more mad at him. I'm like, God, why don't you bless me? And just nothing is happening. And I start sounding like this guy. God comes to me and says, do you want to be blessed? And I start complaining, and I'm like, I'm not good enough. I can't earn it. Where is that happening in your heart right now? Where is that happening in my heart? Is there an area like that? Maybe God is whispering to me today, to you, and He's saying, stop striving. I've already given you the blessing. It's already available. You don't have to earn it. Just stop working for it, stop striving for it, and just receive it, because I want to give it to you. Is God whispering to some of us? The question then is, how do we respond? Do we then listen to the religious leaders like in the story? And we listen to the voices that tell us, oh, yeah, you got to earn it, you got to prove it, you got to prove yourself. Or do we then say, okay, no more of this. Didn't work anyways. I tried for a long time. I'm just going to stop working for it, and I'm just going to ask God for it. And I'm just going to stop my own way, stop trying to compete, stop trying to be better, and I'm simply going to say, God, if you want me to do something to receive my blessing, I'll do it. But I'm not going to try to earn it any longer, because your way is better. I'm just going to receive it. May we pray. God, thank you for your way, which is so much better than ours. Thank you that you bless us. Thank you that you love us. Thank you that you're with us, that you're for us. And thank you that you just made all the blessings available to us already. We don't have to earn anything any longer. We don't have to create any blessings any longer. They are right there for us to receive. So thank you, Jesus, for all these blessings, for all these gifts, for all the things that you made available to us. And so, Father, help us today to just receive them. No longer striving, no longer relying on ourselves, no longer trying to work for them ourselves, but simply resting in your presence, simply resting in your promises, and simply trusting that you have done everything already. Father, help us to live differently. Help us to live in your promises, and help us to receive the blessings that you want to bestow on us. For the glory of your name we pray. Amen. All right. As usual, just take a few moments between you and God.